Good morning and welcome back to the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. My name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. If you're watching us live on Facebook, we appreciate that. Please remember that Facebook does keep these shows online, so you can check them out at your leisure. Sorry about the little angle I can tell that there is on the camera. Do apologize for that. Also, we upload these shows to www.livingstonparishnews.com/podcast. So we appreciate you if you're listening to them there for checking them out as well. Getting into your traffic this morning, you're looking at delays at 190 and Range, as well as 190, 447, and Hatchell and 190. Jubin Road and 190 looking relatively clear. Also, only minor delays at 4H Club Road, River Road, and 190 this morning. Looking at some minor delays on 64 heading into Central as well. Let me get my microphone set up a little bit better here. It's currently 66 degrees. 86 degrees is going to be your high today. Never quite hit that 90 mark over the weekend, although it did get warm. It got close enough, I guess you can say. Got up into the high 80s, and it's going to be that way today. 64, your overnight low. Going to be a mixture of clouds and sun. Looks like the sun's starting to peek out this morning after a relatively cloudy beginning. Getting into your coronavirus statistics for this Monday morning, 29,340 cases, 17,303 have recovered, 175,000 total tests, 1,530 are currently hospitalized with 213 on ventilators, 1,969 deaths. In Livingston Parish, 238 cases, 16 deaths on 2,700 tests. Over the weekend, the governor announced that his press conferences would be scaled back to Monday, Wednesday, Friday, leading up to Phase 1 release. So still on track for that could be going back in time. Still on track for that May 15th opening date, according to the governor. But again, he's going to be scaling those press conferences back to 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, usually around 2:30 p.m. as long as his schedule permits. Otherwise, it'll move around a little bit. So please keep that in mind. One of the things that the governor has brought up a lot is this tracking of cell phone data. Over the weekend, we released an article that discussed how a lot of people are starting to ask, well, this kind of brings up some privacy issues. So that is one thing that we expect the governor to discuss this week. One of the things that they haven't necessarily used it for their internal modeling, at least according to the governor and Dr. Alex Bu from the Louisiana Department of Health. However, they have keeping an eye on it to kind of say, okay, Louisiana, it's time to not do this. However, there are certain, I guess you can say, parameters that are marked down in grading people for social distancing via their cell phone data. And one of the things that has been discussed in Louisiana is a lot of times people have to go over 5 miles to go get things like groceries. A lot of that's about travel to and from home. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of statistics they have internally. Also, of course, they do track the whole 6 feet of distance deal, and not doing so hot on that. However, again, sort of scaling back, and people here in Livingston Parish have brought this up since he started mentioning it, but it does raise some privacy concerns. So the reason we bring that up is it's being discussed at a federal level to see if whether or not that is in fact legal to be tracking the cell phone data and releasing these scores. Right now, the argument against is that you're impeding on a person's privacy within their phone. Haven't we had this discussion before about how Facebook and Google and that sort of thing treat your phone? The argument for is that we're not releasing individual personal data saying that this person is or this person isn't. But during a public health emergency, this could be helpful. So we'll see where that discussion goes. One of the things the governor did say on Friday is that there is a I guess you can say disconnect in between the case reporting and when labs are coming online. What does that mean? There was a huge spike in cases that kind of made people go, well, now wait a minute. Between Thursday and Friday, kind of went back to those days when we were seeing 1,100, 1,200 case increases. One of the things the governor said was that was not actually reflective of a day-to-day increase. What happened was a commercial lab had finally gotten their results put together and had submitted for the first time. which caused a huge influx in cases. He said that was not reflective of the new cases from day to day. If you actually took away those labs tests that were not new or not relevant for that week, it was only more of about a 400 to 450 case increase from Thursday to Friday. So we wanted to let people know about that. Of course, one of the things the state is tracking is they're trying to get these new labs, especially commercial labs, going quickly. But he also, said that they are trying to make sure that they're presenting the right way. And the state is using internal modeling based on things like hospitalizations, deaths, and ventilators, which is the things that they have been keeping track of. Now, one of the things they're going to have to get on top of is those case reportings, because according to the federal task force, it is all about, it's not all about. There are 3 14-day metrics that have to occur over the same 14-day period for this to work. There have to be fewer people presenting to the hospital with COVID-19 or flu-related symptoms. There has to be fewer new cases per capita over that 14-day period. So it is a trend. You get that whole 14 days. And there also have to be fewer deaths. So, over that 14-day period, you're looking for declines in those metrics. So we're going to see where we end up probably about May 11th, I think is what the governor said. We'll be getting an update as to where we're trending and what he expects to happen on May 15th. But based on the reduction in the press conferences and how he announced it, which was, moving towards phase 1, I have a feeling that we're still on the right track, even with these sort of, I guess you can say, misrepresented cases. One of the things the governor did say on Friday was a little bit of clarification on what the rules are for restaurants, and he asked people to go to a restaurant over a weekend. We discussed the rules for restaurants last week. We know a lot of local restaurants are not either not real pleased with them or wish they were a little less strict. Of course, anybody with a patio area already has a certain advantage. You're looking at roughly one table per 110 square feet. So if you're using tents to expand your outdoor area, basically if you have a 20 by 20 tent, you can have one table under it. I did see some restaurants over the weekend myself, sort of anecdotal evidence, that did have, setups of about 8 20 by 20 tents set up next to each other with a table under each. Of course, you cannot be waited on. It's more sort of a, I guess you can say, tableside delivery, as waiters bring you your food and then go back inside. They cannot come in and out. You can be served alcohol and that sort of thing, but you'll have to keep, I guess, calling and ordering. I'm not sure. And they will bring it out to you. So he did ask that people go to a restaurant. He also asked people to start getting back outside. You do not have to stay inside. It's actually not real great for you. Studies are coming out, and I don't know if it's anything new, but staying inside all the time is not real good for your immune system, especially as we go through this allergy season. So it's very good to get outside. Also, it's very good to get outside and exercise for at least 30 minutes, or stay inside and do it if you must. But it's good for your stress levels. All of that is sort of proven science. So good to get outside. It helps relieve that stress, get some of that vitamin D from the sun, and also try to exercise for 30 minutes or more in a day. So those are a couple of things that he brought up. He also discussed a new drug called Remdesivir, something. It's Remdesivir. Got it. Remdesivir, which in the past have been used to treat hepatitis and common respiratory illnesses in very intense cases. It is now being rolled out as a provisionary treatment for COVID-19. It has had a small decrease in the few tests that have been run in fatalities. It has also reduced time in the hospital for those who present to the hospital with COVID-19 with extreme conditions. So that is, Dr. Anthony Fauci mentioned that in one of the federal task force debriefings. And it's something that they're going to try to use more in hospitals on a very provisional basis. It still has not been approved by the FDA officially for use, so they have to have an intense case of COVID-19. Speaking of which, new hydrochloroquine studies, there it is, are coming out. That is the drug Plaquenil. which usually is used to treat malaria or autoimmune diseases, specifically lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, those things like that. It had come out early that this was some sort of miracle drug for COVID-19. Early studies didn't really jive with that, saying that it did help in some cases. In some folks, it didn't help at all. More cases are starting to come out, more case studies rather, that are more long-term, saying that it does have beneficial effects for quite a few people who go through the hospital. Of course, Attorney General Jeff Landry helped secure about 400,000 more tablets of hydroxychloroquine for Louisiana. Of course, there are some folks who have those autoimmune disorders and diseases that have been a little upset because the supply chain has been disrupted, hoping to get that back on track with this new supply. But those are two drugs. Hydroxychloroquine was one that had already been mentioned before, and the new one, as of last week, remdesivir, are supposed to be helpful, but usually for, especially with remdesivir, it's not going to keep people out of the hospital. It's more of a treatment once they're in the hospital and they're under doctor's care. The same thing goes for hydroxychloroquine. Right now, it looks like both of them are possible treatments, but they're not necessarily going to keep you from catching COVID-19. It's important to remember. The legislature is kicking it off today, May 4th, and they will run through June 4th, which is the drop dead date to get a budget out. However, most lawmakers are saying it's going to take a minor miracle to produce a budget over the next couple of weeks, especially since the revenue estimating conference has not occurred yet. One senator said that they are expecting about a $500 million budget deficit. It could possibly be more, it could possibly be less, depending on what the surplus was for this year as well as what was the excess from last year. So we're going to be keeping an eye on that as as the legislature begins to meet. Again, that's today. They have about a month. Now, most of these legislators, those who make our laws, are saying that they are expecting a extra session or special session to come after June 4th to try to finish up any kind of knots in the budget. Sort of trying to wait for this revenue estimating conference to occur and to see how phase one goes of reopening the economy and what kind of revenue comes in from that. Speaking of businesses reopening in phase one, the Paycheck Protection Program hit its round 2 stride. 2.2 million loans have been given out on $175 billion total. We don't have the final statistics for this round yet, but we'll run a story just like we did for round 1 once we do. However, one of the statistics so far is that the average loan is $79,000 in round 2. It's roughly a third of what it was in round 1, suggesting that more smaller businesses are getting their hands on these paycheck protection loans that are forgivable, of course, if you meet certain requirements. You have to spend the money on certain things, including mortgage insurance, rent, utilities, those three. It's not really an or. One of the main principles for forgiveness is at least 80% of it has to be spent on payroll. So that is an important part of the Paycheck Protection Program. But of course, businesses trying to get back to, I guess you can say, the life of business. A lot of folks chose to open on May 1st. There was confusion between the governor and small businesses. There were the ones that were shut down during the proclamation or due to the proclamation. There were also essential businesses. There were a lot of businesses that were caught in the middle. Well, can I open or can I not? The governor never really made that clear. And recently at his press conferences said, well, y'all weren't shut down. You just had to follow certain rules. A lot of business owners not too pleased with that. It was a very confusing time with a very gray area. But now these businesses are trying to open, trying to get people to come to their place of business. I almost said place of worship. Excuse me. Maybe for some business owners it is their place of worship. But trying to get these folks to come. A lot of these businesses were offering curbside delivery. Now they're trying to get patrons to come into the shop. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. Anecdotal evidence so far from Georgia and Florida suggests that while people did return to business, the influx was not what they were hoping for, nor what they expected. And that seems to be pervasive nationwide. A study run by Wallet Hub on 450 respondents, of course, not a real great or huge pool, but said that 77% spread across a wide economic background were saving money or hoarding money during this time, trying to spend less and I guess you can say, save more, as they weren't quite sure where the economy was going in the future. So remember, 77% said they were spending less. 450 respondents, not exactly a huge breadth of a base there for a statistical study, but it sort of anecdotal, much like news reports from Georgia and Florida suggesting that while a lot of people did go back to these businesses once they reopened, there were a lot who did not. They chose to stay home or continue staying home. Mr. Charles Looney, who owns Cheap iPhone Repairs south of I-12 in Denham Springs, is offering free masks and free hand sanitizer to anybody that comes in and just asks. Mr. Looney says he believes in helping his community and helping people. He knows a lot of people have not been able to get their hands on a cloth mask or hand sanitizer. He has certain connections that have allowed him to order some. You can go check out his store, which is just south of I-12 on Range Avenue in Denham Springs. Getting back to your coronavirus statistics real quick. Forgot my mitigation efforts. Can't forget those. Run through them real quick. Wash your hands for 20 seconds with soap and water. Disinfect common surfaces at home and at the office. Wear a mask in public if at all possible. Don't touch your face. Control your cough or sneezing, or control your cough and sneezing with a tissue or your elbow. 6 feet of distance between you and others when in public. Stay home if at all possible to work. Definitely stay home if you are sick, and 10 or less to a gathering. Your coronavirus statistics as of Monday morning: 29,340 cases in Louisiana, 17,303 recovered on 175,000 tests, 1,530 hospitalized, 213 on ventilators, and 1,969 deaths. In Livingston Parish, you're looking at 238 cases, 16 deaths, and 2,700 tests. Current traffic this morning, you're looking at delays at 190 in Range as well as 190 in Hatchell, also 190 and 447. So a lot more people trying to go back to work as we get started here in May, and a lot of things were allowed to reopen just this past week. You're looking at I-12 is still clear, so we're still not quite back to that. Lots of people going back to work. I-12 looking relatively clear, although minor delays on Jubin Road, Range Avenue, as well as 447 on-ramp, so keep that in mind. Minor delays on 64 heading into Central. However, looking at only a little bit of delay at 4H Club Road, River Road, and 190. Not as bad as it usually is. It's currently 66 degrees. 86 degrees is your high. 64 degrees, your overnight low. Didn't quite get up to that 90-degree weather just yet, although it is going to be high 80s during this week. So we're going to be warming up relatively slow but steady, but it is going to be, we are going to see a warming trend over the next couple of weeks. It is a mix of cloudy and sunny today. It looks like the sun is starting to come out, so we do hope you enjoy your day. Please remember what the governor said. Try to get outside a little bit every day, get some fresh air, get some sunshine, move around a little bit, try to exercise for 30 minutes or more, trying to get yourself going. One last time, my name is McHugh David, publisher and editor of the news. Appreciate you guys joining us for the Livingston Parish News Morning Show. We are on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. We are once a week in print on Thursdays. That's $7 a month delivered to your mailbox. You got a bonus 5th edition, and I actually think we're going to have, we might have 5 in May. I'm not real sure just yet. But of course, we're also online, www.livingstonparishnews.com. Our coronavirus page is currently free. However, usually it's $5 a month online. We do hope you have a great day. Please remember, I'm going to say it again, try to get outside, try to get some fresh air, and we will see you tomorrow morning right here in the booth.